Alright, here's an explanation for my Zelda timeline. I don't know if... Okay, so basically I made this timeline while trying to include every spin-off game. The only spin-off game that's not here is BS The Legend of Zelda because I count that as a Zelda 1 remake. So it just basically be Zelda 1. I'm not counting any remakes here, just the original versions. So anyway, starting off Skyward Sword, obviously it's going to be first right here. Let's start with this split right here. Um, I'll explain the splits in a bit. Okay, so here the split is there's time travel in SS. I think you beat the boss in the past or something. I don't know, but there's time travel in it. There's gonna be a split. Okay, so it's Minish Cap, then Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures. The displacement is pretty obvious. There's obviously a sequel. I mean, not a sequel. Like this obviously takes place before this. This takes place after this. Okay, now Cadence of Hyrule is here. The reason I put Cadence of Hyrule here before A Link to the Past is because the game just kind of feels like it's around this era. The game feels like it's like pre ALTTP uh, era, and it has some references to Ocarina of Time, because Welcome to Zelda. I feel like it's just fits in this era right before A Link to the Past. Honestly, Cadence could be placed in a lot of places. I just decided to place it here. It kind of looks nice, I guess. I'm putting it here. I could put it after A Link to the Past, but I'm putting it here. Moving on after that, after Four Swords Adventures, there's Link to the Past. And here there's a time split. I don't know. The time split here makes no sense because there is no time travel in Link to the Past, but I kind of have to because Ancient Stone Tablets and Link's Awakening are both sequels to Link's Awakening, and they both take place 6 years after A Link to the Past. So they both say the same thing. They're both sequels to this game. There's a time split. Let's say the explanation is, I don't know, there was a ripple effect in the transitioning between the dark world and the light world or something, and then that caused uh, the space time continuum to break, and that caused a time split. I don't know. Okay, just don't judge me. Okay, after I'm gonna follow along this timeline right here. So here we have Link's Awakening. Obvious sequel to Link to the Past, takes place 6 years after. Then we have the Oracle games, which do not feature the same Link. I am on that boat that Oracle games do not feature the same Link as Link's Awakening and Link to the Past. It doesn't really matter the order here. After that, we have Link Between Worlds. Honestly, the Oracle games can be placed after these, or before these, because these games have no connection to Hyrule. So honestly, it doesn't really matter where they go. They have no connection to Hyrule. The only connection is that there's Zelda and that there's Impa. The Zelda, I feel like the Zelda just and the Impa. The Impa's an old lady here. I guess there's a new Impa. It's just that the Zelda and the Impa are the only connections to Hyrule in this game. I'm just placing them here because they're not going past here probably. Yeah, they're just here because they could be after the 3DS games, but I'm putting it here. Then we have A Link Between Worlds, which features Gramps, which I'm on the boat that Gramps is Link from Link to the Past. So he's on this timeline as well, which then is Triforce Heroes, which I believe features the same Link as this one. Which then leads to Zelda 1, and then Zelda 2. Yeah, this is basically encyclopedia timeline, but it just makes sense. Okay. Yeah, then we have Zelda 1 take us after, because Zelda 1 feels like really... And we know A Link to the Past is a prequel to Zelda 1, because that's like... I think that was advertised back then, so yeah. Let's go back to this split right here. BS... Why do I keep calling it BS? It just says BS here. I mean Ancient Stone Tablets. Ancient Stone Tablets is also a sequel to A Link to the Past. It's there. That's all I know. And it's not Link's Awakening. So it has to be in a split. Then we have the CDI games. I put them here because they have very similar elements from A Link to the Past. So I feel like placing them after Ancient Stone Tablets made the most sense, but it's like a different era. Then moving on to Zelda 8321 or the Game Watch. There's many different names. I'm placing it here and also the Game and Watch game. Honestly, you could switch the order of these. The reason I put this one after this one is because this one feels more finale-ish. It feels more like it's at the end of a timeline than this game is. This game doesn't really feel like it's at the end of the timeline. This game feels way more like it's at the end of a timeline. So, or like in a very distant era or like a future era. So, or yeah. That's why I have Game Watch here. Yeah. Alright, moving on back to Ocarina of Time. Takes place after Skyward Sword. Yeah. Let's go over. Then we have the infamous Ocarina of Time time split that takes place when Zelda sends Link back to the past. Let's just say one of the time split. This one I think this is obviously like, confirmed, but in the timeline where that's left behind after Zelda sends Link to the past, that leads into Wind Waker. And the sequel to Wind Waker is obviously Phantom Hourglass, and the sequel to Phantom Hourglass is obviously Spirit Tracks. This is like really set in stone right here, and as well as this split from Ocarina of Time. Moving on to Majora's Mask, sequel to Ocarina of Time. In the timeline where that Link returns to after Zelda sends him back, which then, I'll explain this time split later, but let's go down the regular path, which then leads to Twilight Princess and Twilight Princess Picross. I say these happen at the same time because TP Picross has Imp Midna, so yeah, that's why I'm placing it right here, because Imp Midna in it. And yeah, obviously there's a sequel, this is in like the timeline after Majora's Mask. Well, I think. But yeah, afterwards this leads into Link's crossbow training. Which I'm just gonna say it's after Twilight Princess, because I don't know. Then Far Distant Future leads to there's some time split here because Hyrule Warriors stuff, which leads to Hyrule Warriors and Breath of the Wild. I'm saying this takes place in this timeline because it really doesn't make sense with the other timelines. I feel like I don't really know much about this, but I know that a lot of people have debated that Breath of the Wild is in the same timeline as Majora's Mask. I agree with them, so I just think that's most reasonable. And obviously there's time split between Age of Calamity and Breath of the Wild here. Okay, now let's talk about this. I time split here because, well, Majora's Mask, it has time travel. Maybe one of the existences just like, I don't know, an alternate world or something. So yeah. Basically, Majora's Mask is a lot of time travel. There's bound to be like a time split or something, which leads to the Tingle games. The Tingle games are all basically just like Tingle messing around and stuff. So I feel like they all they all have the same Tingle, and he's just messing around. And yeah, it takes place after Majora's Mask because you know Tingle, he's a Majora's Mask character. Maybe he just decided to mess around and like do some stuff after in the time split of Majora's Mask. Maybe after the 4th day. I don't know. Okay. After Tingle games, we have Hyrule Warriors. Honestly, this could be placed anywhere. I didn't place it. But the problem is, if I place this game, does not feel like it's in the Breath of the Wild era, so I had to place it before Breath of the Wild. I placed it here just because honestly, this game like has like gates of time to like all these different games. To this game, this game, this game, and this game. I'm gonna take it part as the majority of this split right here, because you know Tingle has all his stuff. Maybe Tingle from Hyrule Warriors is the same one as this. Who knows? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe the Tingle from these games is the same as this one because the Tingle in Hyrule Warriors is very, very powerful. I think. So yeah, Hyrule Warriors goes here. It does connect to other time travel stuff with the gates of time and stuff. The Hyrule Warriors goes here. It's not post Breath of the Wild. It's probably not post Zelda 1, and it's probably not post Game and Watch. So, and it's probably not post Spirit Tracks either because it's in Hyrule. So yeah, that's my explanation for the timeline.